Well, good morning, everybody. It's Monday morning. Can I give you a very, very warm welcome to Penn Vicarage this morning? Great to see you, and thank you for being with us for our Bible reflection for this morning. And today we're in chapter 22 of Proverbs. Hope you've had a lovely weekend. Let's get straight into the text, Proverbs and chapter 22. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, and favour is better than silver or gold. The rich and the poor have this in common. The Lord is the maker of them all. The clever see danger and hide, but the simple go on and suffer for it. The reward for humility and fear of the Lord is riches and honour and life. Thorns and snares are in the way of the perverse. The cautious will keep far from them. Train children in the right way, and when old they will not stray. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is the slave of the lender. Whoever sows injustice will reap calamity, and the rod of anger will fail. Those who are generous are blessed, for they share their bread with the poor. Drive out a scoffer, and strife goes out. Quarrelling and abuse will cease. Those who love a pure heart and are gracious in speech will have the king as a friend. The eyes of the Lord keep watch over knowledge, but he overthrows the words of the faithless. The lazy person says, "There's a lion outside, I shall be killed in the street." The mouth of a loose woman is a deep pit. He with whom the Lord is angry falls into it. Folly is bound up in the heart of a boy, but the discipline drives it far away. But the rod of discipline drives it far away. Oppressing the poor in order to enrich oneself and giving to the rich will lead only to loss. The words of the wise. Incline your ear and hear my words, and apply your mind to my teaching, for it will be pleasant if you keep them within you. If you all of them, you are ready on your lips. So you may trust, so that your trust may be in the Lord. I have made them known to you today, yes, to you. Have I not written for you 30 sayings of admonition and knowledge, to show you what is right and true, so that you may give a true answer to those who sent you? Do not rob the poor because they are poor, or crush the afflicted at the gate. For the Lord pleads their cause and disposes of life for those who despoil them. Make no friends with those given to anger, and do not associate with hotheads, or you may learn their ways and entangle yourself in a snare. Do not be one of those who give pledges, who become surety for debts. If you have nothing with which to pay, why should your bed be taken from under you? Do not remove the ancient landmark that your ancestors set up. Do you see that those who are skillful in their work, they will serve kings, they will not serve common people. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay, interesting chapter this one, because there's a change in the middle of it. For the last few chapters, up to the first half of chapter 22, it was clearly stated that were written by Solomon. Then in verse 17 it says, the words of the wise. And then there seems to be like a change in the language. It reads very differently. For the last few chapters, it's been a verse, ba-bum, ba-bum, a verse, you know, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, each verse. Then in verse 17, it says the words of the wise. Then it says things like, incline your ear and hear my words, you know, listen in, folks. And it almost reads like a new book in a funny kind of way. And so you get verses 17 to 21 are all about sort of, you know, I've given you some things to listen to and listen up carefully and so on, like a bit of a preamble. And then verse 22 onwards, you get some more sort of proverbs, you might say, but they read differently. Whereas the last few chapters, it's been like a verse at a time. Sometimes you get a whole paragraph or you get a couple of verses at a time together. So it's almost like a change of authorship here. It almost reads like I kind of like reading a new book sort of thing. So that's the structure of it. So verses 1 to 16 are by Solomon, and then verse 17 it says the words of the wise. Whoever the wise are, we don't know. So that's the structure of the chapter. Then just a few things to bring from it. Verse 1, a good name is to be chosen rather than riches, and favour rather than silver or gold. In other words, having integrity and being known for having integrity, and being good at what we do, but also about being honest and acting in a straightforward way. That is better than having riches. So, because in a sense, if you have a good name, if you're well known for honesty, integrity, skill, and respect, and so on, and wisdom, and so on, then in a sense, rich silver and gold will come to you. But it's more important to act with integrity, and to be known for acting with integrity, than actually having lots of money in the bank. Okay, that's the first thing. Then verse 2, the rich and the poor have this in common: the Lord is the maker of all of them. I think it reminds us that all good things around us are sent from heaven above, that everything and everyone, in fact, is made by God. Whether people know it or not, whether people honour it or not, whether people realise or even want it or not, the fact is we are all, be it rich or be it poor, everybody is being made by God. I think that's kind of really important to remember that. So, everybody and everything has been made by God. That's what verse 2 is telling us. Whoever we are, rich and poor, God is the maker of all. Then in verse 4, it says here, we're talking about humility and fear of the Lord. And to remind you, as I always say, humility is not about calling yourself a scumbag. Humility is about remembering that God is God and that we are we, and that compared to God, we are created, whereas God is the creator, and that God's almighty, and that we are remarkably small in comparison. So humility is not about saying I'm a terrible scumbag, and fear of the Lord is not about being terrified of God. It's about remembering who God is. And it's saying here that there are rewards for remembering our rightful place, and that our riches and honour and life, and that the path to life is to remember the true state of affairs is that God is God and that we are not. That we are God's creator, we are God's treasure, but ultimately God is God and we are not. And it's important to remember that. Then in verse 6, he talks about children. Train children in the right way, and when old they will not stray. This is always a knotty one, because you see parents who can bring up children in the right and the godly way to see the children go astray, and it's very difficult to know why. And sometimes there seems to be no rhyme or reason to it. But I do think, in a sense, if we teach children the right way when they're young, when they get older, they know the stories of the Bible and they know what they should do. At least they know the difference between right and wrong. They might not choose the right, but at least they know the difference. And in a sense, the importance of training children, teaching children who God is, so that when they get older, when they can make decisions for themselves, at least they know what the right decision is. They may or may not take it, but that's entirely up to them. But at least they know what to do. Then in verse 22, he talks again about the poor. Do not rob the poor because they are the poor, or crush the afflicted at the gate. For the Lord pleads their cause and disposes of life to those who despoil them. So again, it reminds us that God has a soft spot for the poor. Again, remind us of Matthew 25, the sheep and the goats. The sheep were the people who visited people in prison, who gave to the poor, who and so on, and look after those who are sick, and so on. That actually God has a soft spot for the poor, and we despoil the poor at our, I can't remember the word. Don't do it, because God cares about the poor, and God wants us to, and God will call out for the poor. And actually, the people of Israel should have known this, because years before they'd been in Egypt, they'd been slaves in Egypt, and God had heard their cries and set them free. And they remind themselves of that every year at the Passover, what God had done for them. And then finally in verse 29 is the importance of saying, do you not see that those who are skillful in their work, they will serve kings, they will not serve common people. I don't think this is having a go at the point. I think it's really about saying the importance of acquiring skill, the importance of acquiring knowledge and wisdom, and doing things well and doing things skillfully. Again, the importance of gaining skills when we're younger, which we can use in later life. But I think also it needs to remind us that so often in church life, we accept second best. We accept half-hearted, cheap jobs, and probably old church halls with paint coming off and chip cups, and we often accept things which are second rate. Whereas actually, Do you not say those who are skilled in their work, they will serve Christ? The importance of serving God with our skill. God's given us gifts and talents. And why should we give God second best? So in this chapter, you've got essentially in two parts. You've got Solomon's verses from 1 to 16, which again, they use a quick fire Solomonic style, if you like. Then verse 17, there's a change because I think it's written by somebody else. There's a few words of preamble, then there's small proverbs, but they certainly have a different read about this if you read that at your leisure. Lots of things say that doing right and being known, having a good name is better than having riches. Secondly, that everybody, in verse 2, that everything and everybody, rich and poor, are both made by God. That's verse 4, that humility and fear of the Lord, which is about reminding ourselves just that God is God, and that we know, but there are rewards for that in this life. Verse 16, and this for you parents, the importance of training children, showing them the right way, showing them the godly way. They may not take it for now, but at least they'll know what the right way is when they get older. They can make decisions for themselves. Verse 22, about the importance of not despoiling the poor, remembering that God has a soft spot and a passion for the poor, and frankly that the people of Egypt, people of Israel, were reminded that every year that God had set them free from slavery in Egypt. And then finally, the importance of gaining skills and serving skillfully. And I want to add on that we should serve skillfully in church life as well. Friends, I hope you found that helpful. Have a lovely day. Chapter 23 tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Do please share this message with your friends. Have a lovely day and God bless you.